You ever watch someone walk into a room and instantly get judged not for what they've done, not for who they are, but for how they look? Yeah, that happened. It was a Monday. Cold, rainy. The kind of morning that makes people grumpier than usual. A courtroom in Jackson County, nothing fancy, but serious enough that you could feel the tension the second you stepped inside. That's where it all went down. This old man walks in late, limping, soaking wet from the rain. His coat's too big for him, shoes scuffed up, a folded-up folder clutched in one hand, like it's the only thing keeping him upright. And the judge. He doesn't even wait 10 seconds. "You're late again," he barked, just like your kind, undisciplined and full of excuses. Dead silence. You'd think someone dropped a glass. You could see the shock on the young clerk's face. She actually flinched. But no one said a word. And the old man, he just nodded, almost like he expected it. "Sir," he said calmly, "my bus broke down." I came as fast as I could. But the judge, he waved him off like he was swatting a mosquito. "I don't want to hear another word. In my courtroom, tardiness is disrespect. And frankly, you look like someone who's spent his whole life being a burden." Ouch. He even gestured at the man's coat, called it a disgrace, mocked his limp, said the guy was probably living off food stamps and government pity. I kid you not. The exact words were, "a waste of taxpayer money." At this point, even the bailiff looked like he wanted to disappear. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The man, his name's Reuben Mathis. By the way, 74 years old, didn't flinch. He just stepped forward with a slow limp, gripping that old leather folder. And the defense attorney, bless his heart, tried to step in. "Your Honor," he said, "Mr. Mathis is representing himself today. He's not asking for any special consideration." The judge chuckled. Maybe next time he'll afford a real lawyer instead of wasting this court's time with his sob story. Then Reuben raised his eyes, met the judge's glare and said, "I'm not here for sympathy. I'm here because someone tried to steal my home." Boom. Calm. Clear. Not a trace of fear in his voice. Let me back up a second, because this wasn't just a random eviction case. See, Reuben had lived in the same low-income complex for 27 years. It wasn't much cracked sidewalks, flickering hallway lights, and a manager who didn't care unless rent was late. But it was home. He paid every bill, took care of the community garden, taught the kids how to fix old bikes. Then one day, a new company bought the building, slapped renovation plans on the front door, and started slapping tenants with bogus eviction notices targeting the elderly first. You know, people less likely to fight back. But they picked the wrong man this time. Reuben, instead of folding like they expected, spent the last year digging through paperwork, calling veterans' offices, even sleeping at the public library some nights to access their computers. He had no fancy lawyer, no big money, just that beat-up folder, and a hell of a memory. Now, back to the courtroom, he places the folder on the desk, opens it slowly, and pulls out 3 documents. First, a letter. Reuben holds it out to the judge. "Before we go any further, I'd like you to read this." The judge scoffs. "I don't read personal letters in court." But the bailiff, curious now, leans in and takes it. One glance and the man's eyebrows shoot straight up. He passes it over. The courtroom's dead quiet again. Even the reporter from the local paper stops typing. The judge starts reading and freezes. It's a commendation. Not just from any official, this one's signed by a former president of the United States. A personal letter thanking Reuben Mathis for his acts of bravery during 2 combat tours, Vietnam and Operation Desert Shield. And that's not all. Next paper, his military records, fully restored, stamped by the Department of Defense. It showed he served 23 years in the Army, earned 3 Bronze Stars, a Purple Heart, and was injured after dragging 2 fellow soldiers away from an enemy grenade. That limp, the judge mocked. Yeah, he got it saving lives. But the last document, that's the kicker. It was a court order, dated just 2 weeks earlier, proving that Reuben had been awarded ownership of the very building he was supposedly being evicted from. It was part of a federal Veterans Redevelopment Program 1 that granted him the title deed after the VA confirmed the mishandling of his benefits for over 2 decades. So technically, Reuben wasn't the defendant. He was the landlord. The room exploded in whispers. And just when you thought it couldn't get crazier, the back doors of the courtroom opened, and in came a crew from Channel 12 News. Cameras rolling. A young reporter, Jillian, something stepped up. "Mr. Mathis," she asked, "are you the same veteran being honored at the Capitol next Thursday?" The judge went pale, like ghost-level pale. Because, suddenly, the entire courtroom realized this wasn't just some poor old man who couldn't afford rent. This was a decorated war hero who had been fighting another battle this time, against greedy developers and blind justice. Reuben turned back to the judge. Calm as ever. "You said I was a burden," he said, voice low but strong. "But I've been carrying this country since I was 18. And man, that hit." People clapped. Some stood. The courtroom had seen its share of drama. But nothing like this. The judge mumbled something, maybe an apology. Maybe just a way to save face. But no one was listening anymore. Because for the first time in a long time, the courtroom wasn't about titles or robes or rules. It was about truth. And here's the twist. Nobody saw coming Reuben didn't stop there. See? One of the papers in his folder also detailed a nonprofit he'd just started with back pay from his VA settlement. It's called Silent Shields. It helps other veterans find legal aid, affordable housing, and trauma support. His first donation, a year's rent for 3 tenants, still fighting eviction in that same complex. That, right there, is what makes a man heroic. Not medals, not headlines. Just doing right when nobody's looking. A week later, the judge was formally suspended, pending review. Turns out, this wasn't his first time showing bias in the courtroom. And Reuben. He stood at the Capitol steps, accepting a civilian honor, same coat, same shoes, same quiet strength. When asked how he stayed calm through it all, he said yelling never built anything, but truth moves mountains. Now, let me ask you something. What would you have done in that courtroom? Would you have spoken up sooner, called the judge out, stayed silent? Do you think that apology, if you can even call it that, was enough? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because stories like Reuben's don't just deserve to be heard. They deserve to be remembered. And if you believe respect should be earned, not assumed. If you believe justice sometimes wears old boots and carries scars, then hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs reminding. That dignity has nothing to do with what you wear, and everything to do with how you walk through fire and still come out standing. Because the quiet ones, they're the ones who carry the heaviest loads. And sometimes, they carry all of us.